Hey everyone, just Carmine here. I've talked to you many times about my own personal back problems. My personal back problems include herniations, bulging discs, disc fragmentation, and spinal stenosis caused by spinal arthritis. So it's pretty much a host of every back problem that you can have. Those symptoms range from radiating symptoms in which whether the source of the back pain is in the neck or maybe that's where the nerve is impinged. Most problems are caused by nerve impingements, whether it's a disc in the lumbar region or in the spine. You can have back spasm associated with that, or you can have radiating symptoms. So radiating symptoms might be tingly symptoms, numb symptoms, just a lack of strength. And those symptoms, the worst of nerve impingements, move on to what we call neuropathy, which is nerve death, which is the body has ability to regenerate nerves that are killed, but it's not something that we want to have to address. We'd rather sort of be proactive and work on it. So when someone comes into my studio for an evaluation, the answer, if they're over 35 years of age, is they probably are already experiencing some sort of a back issue or back problems, whether they be big or small. The question is how big, how small, and what do I need to do to address it? How I address it is generally building a balance of strength, working on posture and core strength. It's a very simple formula. It's a formula that's applied differently to each client according to their needs and how far or how advanced their symptoms are and how debilitated they are from their condition. So the first thing I want to address is posture. I'm going to say goodbye for a second and then rejoin you. So I just took my shirt off there to get a better look at my personal posture and to sort of use that as a jumping off point from which to talk about how you can address your posture issues. So first of all, according to your symptoms, according to how much discomfort you are, how much your back problems are interfering with your everyday life, you need to see your physician. Your physician will probably direct you into either physical therapy or maybe towards an orthopedist, and they might be looking for x-rays or MRIs depending on how advanced the condition is or how acute your symptoms are. So I'm talking about someone who's just managing an everyday achy back. Humans aren't designed very well in that our head position is quite far forward, and that was fine when we were constantly on the move. So when we were hunter-gatherers and we were constantly in locomotion, our chest was up, our head would be located over our shoulders, and our shoulders would be located over our hips in turn. And that's great posture there. So it's sort of a standing at attention type position. Eyes neutral and ahead. Generally speaking, if you're looking down all the time, you're probably going to be in bad posture because your shoulders will tend to follow your chin down. If you were to stand up against a wall, you should be able to easily have both your glutes, your scapula, which is your shoulder blades, your elbows and your wrists all touch the wall, as well as your heels, with no problem. If your head is seated forward, if it has started to move here, which is common to even people who exercise. Some people come to me and they're highly reliant on just running and yoga, and there's nothing wrong with those disciplines. I enjoy those disciplines myself. I just think there's a right amount to them, and you also need other exercises to balance them out. So to rely too heavily on any, or to worship at any one altar too much, can be a setback for anybody in their personal training and the use of their body. So if you are doing things that tend to pound and pull you forward, like running, you maybe start to form protracted shoulder cradle. If you weight train like a lot of people who I have trained with in my life, you may be too focused on these muscle groups that we see in the mirror every day and not enough on these muscles that are important behind our body. Those would be the lats, the spinal erector, the lumbar region with the back extensors, your glutes and hamstrings. Those are all what we call your posterior chain, and those are the muscles that give you tension, and also your trapezius, your rhomboids, your pterygoids, your rear delts. All of those are the ones that keep our shoulders back and in position, as well as our body just pulled back into a good position. So generally speaking, people have worked on muscle groups in the front of the body more so than muscles in the back of the body, so they have an anterior to posterior imbalance. So for the most part, trainers are working on that imbalance. I address it with almost all clients. If you have that imbalance, your musculature is going to be pulling you forward. So that might come anything from a muscle-bound guy who's just got his shoulders pulled forward here and his chest and he's bound here and he can't take his elbow back here easily, to a runner who's very slight and has very little muscle and does no pulling movements and their head is seated forward and low. Both of these things, and that's also caused from deconditioning. If you're not using your muscle groups at all, you're seated at a computer desk all day long, and just the weight in looking down at a computer terminal, your keyboard and the computer are going to draw you forward over time. So all of those are common causes of what we consider your common posture mistakes or the things that draw us away from great posture. We do tons of things in posture correction, but today I want to sort of just talk about addressing back pain and how to address it on a daily basis. And that's something that you can do on a daily basis. It ranges in everything from nutrition to activities that you can do to activities to avoid. So once again, I'm going to disappear for a moment and then reappear and take you through some of those things. Okay, so if you are a person who has back problems can be extraordinarily debilitating. They can actually take your breath away. They can make you unable to stand up on your own 2 feet. I've had a 105-pound girlfriend have to help me into a car and not be able to even help me up off the ground when my back was at its worst. So a lot of things contribute to my bad back, and I've discussed them before, and I probably will discuss them again in a formal setting, but we're here to talk about backs in general and not my back in particular. But that's just how bad the symptoms can get. If you are fortunate enough that that is not where you're at, that you're, maybe you just feel like you have a tense, achy back and you're not experiencing any acute symptoms right now. These are the type of things in the morning that you can do to address having a better posture position and at least starting your day in a better way. So first thing is waking up the muscles in the posterior chain in the back of the body and finding good spinal alignment. So in finding good spinal alignment, whether it's what I do first thing in the day or at the end of the day because I've been leaned over in a bad position over a laptop or a computer or a tablet for a long time, is I'll do what I call an elbow prop, and that's just a way of taking and returning the recurve to my lower back. So rather than having me rolled over, it'll tend to return the curve to my lower spine. So I have the mat set right here. And with that mat, all I'm going to do, create an angle, is I place my elbows directly underneath my shoulders, I point my toes, I keep my knees aligned, and I let my hips settle towards the ground, looking up gently. the second thing I'll try to do here is try to find some relaxation and to breathe. So if you woke up, if you're sleeping in a funny position, that's probably going to be your first step to start returning a good spinal position. You'll probably feel a better ability to be upright right away after that. Another trick that I use that you may or may not be able to use at home is if you have anything to hang from or a chin-up bar and you are able to, it's a form of traction. Traction is actually rather effective, and it is something that I use at home. So here I have the chin-up bar, and that's what I'm going to use for this case. I'm actually trying to achieve the same things I do with the elbow prop there. What I do is I let my hips lie in, I look up gently, and that lengthens my waist, and it returns the curve to the lower spine, and it decompresses some vertebrae at the same time, which is excellent. So the second part of the ritual that I think is excellent is simply a good morning drill. So a good morning drill is imitating a deadlift without actually doing a deadlift. So when you see someone do a deadlift, this is what you see most of the time. Rolling their back towards the ground. And that is not something that you can do. What you need to do is always, within your deadlift, maintain lower back posture. So you have posture includes your upper back, your lower back, and your hips. And if you're not maintaining all of those things, you can't safely accomplish a deadlift motion. Or maybe if you have tightness to the hamstrings and hip flexors, you don't have the range of motion and flexibility that allows you to do a deadlift yet. But this type of drill will help get you there. So what I'm going to do is just stand at attention with my chest really high. My feet are directly shoulder width apart. And what I'll do is keep the curve in my back, let my arms hang, look ahead as if I'm bowing with someone, and I'll come down until my hamstrings completely tighten. But I won't come down so that my back position rolls or breaks. So again, shoulders up, chest high, lower back engaged and recurve is there, hips drift back, arms fall towards the ground. I'm looking ahead as if I'm looking someone in the eye. I'm bowing with someone. I'm not looking at the ground. Lengthening the hamstring. And then returning to a full upright position with my shoulders over my hips. So I might do that 5 to 10 times. And, you know, since I have a hamstring flexibility issue, it's part of the reason my back is imperfect. I'll really hover in the stretch portion of it, so that's something to give thought to. The next drill that I'll do is, I do in a couple of different modifications, but when people talk about core, it's very important to back health, but core is our rectus abdominis, our obliques, transverse abdominals, serratus, but also our back extensors, our spinal erecti, and the muscles of the lower and upper back. Those are more important to posture. So you have the muscles that pull you forward, which are your anterior muscle groups, and you have the muscles that pull you back into a good position. It's a good way to think of it. And those are the muscles in the back of the body. So we want to activate those muscle groups. So a great way to do that is with a standard bridge. So that's what I'm going to go into next. And that could be it for the morning. Just a way to wake yourself up and get yourself into a good position. So with my bridge here, I have my legs at about 90 degrees. My hands are stabilized out. I keep my knees and feet parallel, not paralyzed, parallel. And I'm just going to drive my hips straight up into the air, as far as I can to a hold. So I'm driving through the heels. So here I'm activating my hamstrings, my glutes, my calves to a lesser degree, and I will feel my lower back and my hips engage. So again, and I'll feel the lengthening of my hip flexor. I'm going to drive through the heels, hold, really press into that position, come down slowly. Press through the heels, keep the knees parallel, keep the legs parallel, lengthen the hips, press as high up as I can, and come down gently. Now once again, I don't know if there's an exact right number to that, but I would think of elevating yourself up probably at least 5 to 10 times, with maybe trying to hold the up position with 3 seconds. Initially, when you come back and you lower your butt back down towards the ground, you may need to rest at that point. You may need to let your body weight sit on the mat or sit on the floor. And that's fine. That's just muscular fatigue caused by deconditioning. But as you become stronger, you'll find that you're able to elevate, you'll be able to press and really engage the hamstrings and the glutes, lengthen the hip flexor, and you won't have to return down to the ground completely and rest your weight. You'd rather not. If you're able to not do that, you would rather just come down so that your butt is hovering over the ground or just barely touching the ground, but your weight doesn't come down, and then you re-elevate back into that position, pressing into the hip flexor, trying to lengthen the waist. Throughout the day, from that point on, try to leave your desk several times and get to a good posture point. Good posture point is shoulders over hips, chest high, shoulders back. Chest high, shoulders back. So this is my constant posture. It doesn't look unusual. Some people might think it does, but it really doesn't look unusual in everyday use. So it's nothing to worry about. And if you're only able to get up a couple of times a day, you may also want to utilize a doorway stretch. So a doorway stretch is, if my elbows were against a doorway here, I would step through and allow my body to lengthen through the doorway. So my hands would be stopped by the edge of the door, and my torso would then step through the doorway. I'm lengthening my pectoralis, opening up my anterior delt, pectoralis minor, and then that allows me to hold a good posture point a little bit better once I've retrieved it. So doorway stretch is another thing to add to the daily rituals, along with the other things you do to hold good posture points. So hopefully those are helpful within your daily posture adjustments, and hopefully they'll help you avoid some of the worst symptoms you have with back injuries and back discomfort.